Everybody, coming out of 2 holiday weeks and stepping into this week, the inside profile is the previous week's volume profile. The outside is 4-week rolling. And then the blue lines here, obviously the targets from the weekly pivots. The pivot itself here on ES this week is 59.50 quarter. And we can see the targets on either end, but want to be very clear on that. We have a 4-hour pinch back here, and we ended the week relatively productively without coming back and testing into this exhaustive node down at the last week's volume profile. So for this week, looking at 59.84, that is actually the top of the pivot balance zones, and I want to see that respected. Obviously, previous weeks, we have the weekly pivot high up here at 59.78, so 78 to 84, that range. As long as that remains protected, I want to see rebid opportunity up into the 1A up here at 60.34 right here, where we'd have to gauge for continuation. Upon continuation above this 34, we have this untested weekly pivot at 60.60. And also, we do auction above the 34.5 right here. I would expect this to test into this untested weekly pivot 60.60, find some two-way trade, or extend up into the 2A and find some balance between the 2A and the 1A. The 2A is up here at 60.90 quarter, right? And so if we're holding this down here at 80.78, then I want to see us gravitate up towards this. And if we pop into this zone, we're into this large node on the 4-week rolling volume profile. And I want to see that fill out a bit further and potentially test and rotate around that node. Now, if we get below that 84 zone, 84 to 78, then I want to see us test into the weekly pivot, at which point I want to see that respected. And certainly we have to gauge for continuation or exhaustion around that zone. But in the event that we do find continuation underneath of that, I want to first target the pivot balance low down here around the 22 range, 22 to 27. 27 is the bottom of pivot balance zones. And so gauge continuation from that. And then also be aware that we have the potential for acceleration and a quick move in for what would be an LVN return, 59.04 to 17 range. So if we get below the weekly pivot, we auction down here because it becomes pretty slow, rotating in a small, potentially downward shaping balance. And then we accelerate into this and we V up out of that. That's where we'll be looking for an exhausted node on the intraday profile that would look similar to this. And you'd want to bid from this zone, not risk in that prior distribution. But we have this on the prior weeks. And so continuation underneath the weekly pivot. Then first, I want to see us gravitate into here. And if we slow down and then accelerate into this and reverse, then I want to get on board to completely traverse this zone, come back through weekly pivot, and then work our way back up into the 6,000 range. Underneath the 59.04, I want to have some caution. Not want to fight that too much. Below us, we have targets down at 58.65 3/4 and 58.09. Now for NQ, look at this. Pretty similar, untested weekly pivot here at 21.853. And for this right here, 481 right here, pivot balance high. As long as we remain bid above that zone, I want to find continuation for a push up into the 755, which is the first target on the weekly pivots. 755 right here. We do find interest in auction above that on the 4-week rolling. Over here, we have primary LVN lines up with this untested pivot, which is 21.853. I want to pay attention to 853 along the way, but above the 755, understanding that we have the potential to build hold and find some two-way trade between that and the 2A, which is up at 22.029. So put 829, that's a typo, and I'll fix that. But that's 22.029. So down here inside of the 21,481, I would like to see us tag into the weekly pivot, which is at 21,344. We have to start gauging for exhaustion or continuation if we're not able to get back above that, see an exhausted look on the profile or the order flow at that zone. Then I want to target down 21,207 to gauge for continuation, an acceleration type move. And so if no exhausted balance under 207 right here, if we don't see anything push down, give us an exhausted node, push back in, then certainly want to target 933 for continuation. So that's my thoughts in the upcoming week. We'll be on this week back at regular schedule, and that schedule is listed in the announcements section. And looking forward to stepping on with prep and office hours along the way and discussing the activity along the week ahead. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we'll chat soon.